Hello, my name is Narki Norton, and I serve as Assistant Director of Recruitment in the Office of Recruitment and Diversity Initiatives within the Graduate School at the University of Georgia. This webinar will discuss how to create deliver messages in GradSlate. Before we dive deep into deliver messages, I want to first break down the word deliver. When I say this word, it simply means an email communication. So how do you send emails to students who you're interested in? Also, let's just refresh a bit on the definition of Slate. Slate is an online integrated system that will assist with the recruitment, application, and admission of graduate students across the university. Now that we've refreshed what Slate is, and also making sure we break down barriers of language for some of you who may be a little bit new to GradSlate, we can talk about email communications. So strategically speaking, some of you may be in the camp where you want to send one email to students who are relevant to your application. So for example, right now it's 2021. You may want to send one email before your deadline to students who are interested in coming fall 2022 and students who are interested in your graduate program. Others, let's say you're running an event, an open house, a visitation day. You really want to engage those students, which you could. If you created an event through GradSlate, that data, that information will actually be automatically updated in GradSlate if you use GradSlate for events. And then you can send an email that talks about your department, your graduate program, and you can include the link to register for the event that you've also created, creating strategically two different touch points to engage with these students. So I wanted to pause for a moment and throw out two options that as a department, as a recruiter, some of you might have thought about, and there could be other options even beyond the two that I've talked about and shared. So let's now dive deep into GradSlate and how we can use deliver messages to help your recruitment needs. So at this moment, I'm sharing this template. It's called Creating Deliver Messages in GradSlate. This deliver template will help graduate coordinators visualize how deliver messages are built in Slate and what fields are required to launch a deliver message. If you're interested in submitting a deliver message through GradSlate, please follow the steps below. As I scroll down, the first bullet references this very template. Review this template in its entirety so that you know all fields required. Once you know all fields, then you can go submit a request via the Creating Deliver Messages in GradSlate request form. Please note, if you are submitting the request, you must be a user who has a GradSlate account. And then once that GradSlate deliver message is created by the RDI staff, the host, i.e. that graduate recruiter who has a GradSlate account, will be assigned ownership and access of the requested deliver message. That's a lot of language, but I'll break it down. You create the content, we build the deliver message and we'll send it. And then after it's sent, we're going to transfer ownership to you, the host, the person who is in charge of that message. Scrolling a little further, I want to discuss the deliver messages launched from RDI, i.e. our Recruitment Diversity Initiatives office within the graduate school. These letters have been built and created to go to all students within these three different columns of communication. So let's start with the word prospect. For Slate, the word prospect in terms of communication is a student whose information we do have access to, but that student has not expressed interest. If you've ever purged names from a GRE, search name, or database, that's a good example of purging their information. However, they've not actually expressed an interest. So that's the term we use for prospect in terms of communication. The next column in the center, inquiries. So for communication, we refer to inquiries as students who have expressed an interest. That interest could be expressed in a visitation day, an individual visit to an office, going to take a tour, going to an open house, attending a conference and engaging with you. So those are different ways in which the student is taking some sort of step to say, yes, I am interested, all the way down to doing a request for more information form. And then that last column to the right, admitted applicants. That's clearly applicants who've gone through that application process. They have an offer letter, and those students also receive columns of communication. So I want to break down the letters within these columns so that you have some context in terms of what the graduate school overall from our office, how do we create those messages and what have we sent? So for prospects, we have one letter encouraging these students to become a bulldog. We want to tread lightly for these students because once again, we have their information, but they never really engage with us to say, yes, I'm really, really interested. And we have a call to action that says, hey, if you want to know more information, fill out this form. Once the student fills out that form, then they are transferred into the inquiries column. Once you are transferred into the inquiries column or you become an inquiry, you're going to receive a welcome letter, how to fund education, some resources, and then also you'll see some most common questions from prospective graduate students. All of these letters are geared towards these inquiries, but each letter also has a call to action, and each call to action says apply today. So if a student decides to apply, then they are no longer an inquiry, they're an applicant. And based on your admission, if you're given an offer letter, if you are accepted and admitted at the University of Georgia, you receive a few of these communications in the far right column. You'll receive an invitation to Accepted Students Day, which is hosted by our office, where we bring these students physically on campus, and we also virtually engage them as well. We talk about what are the next steps? What does life look like in Athens? Here are our campus partners who will go over things like parking and health and career center and professional development, insurance, libraries. Some of these partners are very involved in communicating a lot of information that may be overwhelming to find on a website. So we bring those partners to our students. And last but not least, for Acceptance Students Day, we have a panel of current grad students to talk to the students about the real experience. Outside of that invitation, these students will receive a welcome to the city of Athens. So now that they're in, we want them to know what is the lay of the land in terms of the local scene. Libraries, we want them to know about the resources they have access to as graduate students. And then we have some additional resources that they really want to know about as an incoming graduate students. So these are the communications we've built and created that serve all students, no matter where they're coming from. As I scroll to the bottom, if you'd like to review some of the content, feel free. You see these links for prospects, inquiries, and admitted applicants. Some of you may not need to look through that, but others you might want to know how did we format it? And also you may want to include information that potentially isn't duplicative. So that's also okay if you don't want to repeat any extra information that may have already been shared. But if you need some inspiration, feel free to review our letters if you feel moved to do so. Most important, in red, we grant students the ability to opt out. So if you no longer want to receive letters from the grad school or from a graduate program, the student has the right to opt out. We think that's very important for them to make sure they have that ability and that permission. Now going to the next page, talking a little bit more about deliver. So graduate programs, as I mentioned in the beginning, you'll be able to send a customized letter to inquiries. So I'm specifying that this is for recruitment. So you can send to inquiries in terms of students who have expressed that interest, and that student is going to be within that intended term. So for example, it's 2021 right now. So if I was interested in political science, then the intended term would be students who are inquiries that happen to be interested in starting fall 2022 with a graduate program of political science. That's a good example of what I mean in terms of inquiries who have selected an intended term of the application cycle. We recommend some of the bullets below in terms of what you may want to include. Some of you may have a different idea or vision. We just want to make sure you're not starting from scratch. These are some things you can include. I highly recommend using links. If you write an email that's formatted so that it's reusable, but your links are directed to the specific information that will change each year, that will make life much easier for you as a graduate recruiter. So keep that in mind. These are some bullets that we recommend. However, there could be information beyond that that you want to share. Once again, since this is customized, this will be up to you. And still in bold, please write your letter in a format that will be reusable for future academic cycles. Some of you may just want to send a deliver message potentially to boost more applicants. That's a great idea. Others, you may want to resend that same letter once a year. If that's you who I'm speaking to in terms of that strategy, then you would reach out to our office and say, hey, we've already submitted this in 2020, and we'd like that same letter to go out, except now we want the intended term to reflect something more up to date. And we can do that for you. So I'm going to scroll to the next page. The last couple pages will show you an image to the right, which shows you what I see in the GradSlate system as I'm building your content. And then to the left, we have some columns that just gives you an idea, once again, on required fields. So for new mailing details, what is the name of this deliver? What is this message name in terms of how you want to call it? It's internal. And then host. So the host is the user of the GradSlate account. So that's very important. As you scroll down, you can see the next page is talking about the sender and the subject and the details. So the email of the department could be included, or the email of the host. Recipients, you see recipients on the picture to the right. That is going to filter students based on intended term of that application cycle and the program of interest that that student has selected, or that you would like to reach out to in terms of what you represent in graduate programs. Subject of email, then the email message. You're going to be able to attach a Word doc of that email message because it's going to be sent to those students. And then it will be incorporated in our GradSlate system. Your logo is required. It has to be a JPEG or PNG. Please make sure you will include that. You can see in my image to the right, you see the grad school's information here, but your information will take place there instead. Physical address, which is why we have ours, you'll have yours so that the student knows where you are, who you are. And then an action photo, which is also required. Do not send a photo that's static or that's just posing with smiles. You should really think about what that word action means. How are you engaging actively, dynamically in the lab, in the field, within the classroom or learning space? This photo is giving that student a glimpse of the culture, the environment that you represent, the values that you espouse. So please, please be considerate in how images play a very important part of recruitment. And you can see at this bottom image, we have an arch as a sample of this deliver message. So that will be at the bottom of this deliver. So I wanted you to see how wide that looks because the dimensions must be 933 by 367. If you have questions outside of this webinar or beyond the template that will be provided, feel free to reach me at yspnarkey@uga.edu. So right now I'm going to stop sharing that document. I'm going to show you the form. And here you will see how the template mirrors the form. So you've got this content information up here. Once again, if you are making a request and you're missing fields, you will not be allowed to submit the information. To reiterate, the user must have a GradSlate account. So if you do not, you can click on this hyperlink, you can put in a request, and someone within the graduate school will eventually approve so that you can have access to GradSlate. You have host name, host email, the basic information we need to collect. You'll be able to select one graduate program. For clarity, if you have a department that has more than one graduate program, you would need to submit one request per graduate program. So please keep that in mind. And clearly graduate programs will differ. in terms of the information that will be included within those letters. But I want to make sure that's clear. You have intended term or terms. If you want more than just one, you could select that. And then deliver message. Name of that message, once again, the sender, attaching the deliver message, i.e. that content that you want that student to receive in all of these files as well. You can see that this aligns with the template that we just reviewed. Now, one more thing I'd like to show you is a sample. So let's say you have completed this submission and you want to know what I see in the system and what I have built after you've sent me the information. So here is a snapshot, as I like to call it, of what I'm seeing in Slate. I'm not going to go through every single button or function because I just want to keep you focused and grounded on what's relevant. So assuming I've gotten all the information, we're going to click on the big edit button. You see the name, you see myself as user, but I would change that to you as the host once everything is sent. You see the information here, recipients list. Once again, it's filtering based on intended term and program of interest. For my example, I'm talking about history since I am referencing this as the 2021 Hamilton College Open House for prospective students. So that's the name of my deliver. This is the user, and this is the number that will be filtered. So we've got our message down here. You can see the subject, see the email of who the sender will be. That could be, once again, the email of the department or the email of the host. You want to figure out which person that should be. You've got your picture, you've got your message, you've got your call to action, which we highly recommend to keep students engaged. I really love these functions because if you click here, you see all of the hyperlinks and it checks to make sure that they are good. It gives you a preview. You can also click out of this. This is the desktop version. As you scroll down, what would it look like if someone read this on a computer? What would it look like if someone read it on their phone? This is a really good way to see the dimensions of that deliver message. Going a bit further, of course, right now I have not sent this message, but let's say I send that message. You're going to have access to a lot of the data and analytics involved in that message after I transfer the information to you. So I'm going to now switch from this sample. I'm going to go to an actual message that we have launched, which was funding your graduate education. So once again, you see this screenshot, this snippet of information. You see current status says scheduled and running, so it's still running. It'll always run until we stop it. Funding your graduate education is active. You could see as I scroll down a bit, the data in terms of what's happening with that deliver message. You see clicks. So when the spikes exist, and as you see, as you scroll here, what those numbers look like. And if you go further, you can see what are these links and which ones are getting the most attention. So clearly we have 59 clicks here for students who have information about domestic application information and application deadlines. And then next, financial information in general. So that's a really brilliant way to see what students are gravitating to if you'd like. If you're curious about location, click on browser/location. You could see what types of technology is being utilized in browsers. And you also can see where they're coming from in terms of the world. You have a lot here in the United States, 5 from China. You can go into states specifically to see where you're having students receive these different messages. So this is a really amazing way, once you have access, once the message is sent, to study where these students are coming from, what they're clicking on, how are they being engaged. And this is going to be a very useful recruitment tool for you. So thank you so much for going through this webinar on creating deliver messages. We hope that this will be useful in terms of not just the graduate school sending our letters to all students, but really now giving you an opportunity to customize a message that you prefer. If you're using events, You can use that link and URL to connect to your deliver message. And also, if you are doing a one-off letter during a peak period of time, that's another strategy, once again, to really engage more students. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach me at yspnarkey@uga.edu. Thank you.